I don't know about you, but I have heard a lot of sermons over my lifetime based on the story that Curtis just read. Amen. Many of those sermons, if not most of them, have been about the quality of dirt in which seeds of God's Word are planted. Amen. Leading a Bible study on this parable a few years back, I asked the question, what does good dirt look like? And one fella said, fluffy. Dark, rich, and fluffy. Can't you just feel it as you run your hands through it? Can't you smell it? That earthy, clean smell? Now, I am no dirt expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't see a lot of what folks consider good dirt around here.
You got it.
Nothing like my home state of Indiana. Particularly the northern parts of the state, where when those corn fields and soybean fields are first plowed, the dirt is the color of the finest cup of Starbucks coffee. Here, we have red clay, don't we? And it may be good for something, but it doesn't immediately make you think, wow, that's good dirt. Now, if you are a seed planter, you are attracted to good dirt. We all want to plant seeds in good dirt. Dirt that will almost guarantee us a bumper crop, or beautiful flowers, or hardy vegetables, or strong, healthy trees, or lush green lawns. But have you noticed something strange about the farmer in this parable? The farmer appears careless. He throws out his seeds sort of willy-nilly, scattering them along paths where the birds would eat it up. Amen. On rocky places where the plants would sprout quickly, but with shallow roots the sun would soon scorch. Other seeds scattered among thorny weeds that would outgrow the plants and choke them out. The farmer allows the seed to go where the soil is not all that great. Now, if we did a critique of his planting technique, we might say he is wasteful and inefficient and misguided. Yes, most of the sermons I've heard preached on this story have focused on the quality of the dirt, almost making the farmer and his practice of seed planting a minor part of the plot, and certainly not the main point. Maybe that's because if we take this story as Jesus tells us to take this story, we find that when we critique the bad planting job, we are really critiquing God. God is the farmer in the story. Do we ever critique God? Who among us has presumed to tell God what to do and how to do it better? All right, put your hands up. Watch closer where you're dropping that seed, God. Could you not find some better ground in which to plant your kingdom dream and vision than where you have? Now, from our outward observations and our external judgments, God, we see better soil over there. What are you doing over here, God? You don't want us over here with you, do you? One of the things we pastors of churches think about, as do good church folks, is church growth. Now, let's be honest. We all get excited when the numbers are increasing and down in the dumps when we see attendance fall off or folks leave. Gene can tell you well, on a Sunday like this, I'll go home so happy this afternoon. But on other Sundays, I'll be Where were they all today? I came across this testimony of a young Presbyterian pastor in the Atlanta area, which got me thinking about this whole issue of church growth in a different way. He says, as a seminary student, I learned that church growth is a slippery concept, that it's elusive, and it can't be simply tracked back to one reason or cause. We want facts, though, things that we can do or change, forces that we can control. We see that some churches prosper when led by certain preachers, or that churches with a certain theology or worship style attract people, packing worship services with excited young adults, and we begin to wonder, what are we doing wrong? He said, I grew up in a church that grew dramatically, especially under the care of one particular senior pastor. While this man was the senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Marietta, Georgia, membership increased in ways you wouldn't believe, to the point that the sanctuary that had housed the congregation for most of their 150-year history had to be replaced by one that could hold more than double what the old one did, as membership increased into the thousands. In so many ways, he said, I was intimidated when my former pastor asked me to lunch after graduating from seminary. For me, as a child who witnessed the church grow and expand, this man was larger than life, surely the most intimidating model of ministry I could ever imagine. After lunch, I asked him what words of advice he had for a young man seeking a call to a church. I asked something like, as far as having a successful ministry goes, your time at First Presbyterian really can't be beaten. So tell me, what's your secret? He said, the senior pastor looked him dead in the eye with a gaze so intent he had to look away. And he said to him, Joe, you have to know what is in your control and what isn't in your control. And when it comes to being a minister, there isn't really that much that is in your control. Amen to that. He said, in him, I saw a man who had earned the right to pat himself on the back through a successful church. But he said, I then realized I was face to face with a man who knows the wisdom of the parable of this sower. One of the presumptuous mistakes we preachers make, and sometimes church folks make, is that we want to take credit or blame for what is really in God's hands. And for that reason, we want only to risk the work of the church when we feel as if we are given the luxury of tending good, fluffy, dark, rich soil. Let's do church when and where doing church is easy. That might be all well and good, but that's not the mission to which God has called us. God, through his Son Jesus, has said, go into all the world, preaching and teaching the good news. Jesus did not say, go only to places where the lawns are already manicured and the flowers are already blooming. Jesus did not say, go only to where the fruit has already ripened and is hanging low. Jesus said, go into all the world. Go to the side of town where the rundown mill is next door. Go to the part of the community where gunshots are sometimes heard on a bright Saturday afternoon. Go to the places where the business world or the school officials or even other churches have said, we've got to leave this neighborhood if we want to grow. The soil's not good here. Jesus has said, go into those places where the human need is the greatest. What I have come to conclude from this parable is that God says, I'm responsible for the harvest. We're simply called to scatter the seeds. For we know for sure that no matter what the condition of the soil may be, But unless the seed is scattered, there will be no harvest. Now, we can do it our way, or we can do it God's way. That is in our control. That is our choice. But do we really think that God is going to let us control His choice of to whom He brings good news of salvation and hope? You see, our biggest problem is impatience. God has given us the gift of time, and we think that we can use that gift of time to control God and others. So God scatters out His seeds of hope, and He tells us to wait. And because we haven't yet seen the results that we have determined are the markers of true change in somebody else or in the world around us, we judge it's all failure, and we're ready to give up. One of my favorite preachers, Fred Craddock, tells a story about the time he got a phone call from a woman whose father had died. This woman had been a teenager in one of Fred's churches that he had served as a pastor 20 years before. And Fred says he would have sworn that if ever there was a person who never heard a word he said, that teenage girl was it. She was always giggling with her friends in the balcony, passing notes to boys, drawing pictures on the bulletin. But when her father died 20 years later, she looked up her old pastor, the Reverend Fred Craddock, and gave him a call. She said, "I don't know if you remember me," she started. Oh, yes, he remembered her. She said, "When my daddy died, I thought I was going to come apart. I cried, and I cried, and I cried. I didn't know what to do. But then I remembered something you had said in one of your sermons." And Fred Craddock was stunned. She'd remembered something he said in one of his sermons. It was proof enough to him that you can never tell how the seed will fall or where it might take root. God just scatters out the seeds. And so if we're going to do things God's way, that's what we're called to do as well. But here's warning. Here's warning. There are going to be times when scattering the seed, we are going to be disappointed or hurt or feel taken advantage of. It's going to happen. But Gene came across something on Facebook Friday. Imagine that, Facebook. that I wanted to share with you. It got my attention. It was originally written by a guy named Jeff Hagan. Now, don't hold his last name against him, okay? He said, "A friend and I were at a campfire, and suddenly we saw a snake come out of the flames, wiggling in pain. My friend reached into the flames and he pulled out the snake to save the snake, but when he did, the snake bit his hand. Well, my friend's reaction was to shake the snake loose, and when he did, the snake fell back into the fire. And immediately my friend reached back into the fire to pluck the snake out again, and it bit him again. And he shook the snake free only to see it fall back into the fire. And as he started to reach out one more time to pull the snake from the fire, I called out to my friend, 'Hey, don't be a fool for a third time. It bit you the first 2 times, it'll bite you again.'" Amen. And he said, my friend's response stopped me in my tracks. He said, "Just because the nature of the snake is to bite me, that doesn't mean that I will alter my nature, which is to help." And with that, he picked up a stick and reached in and finally pulled out and freed the snake from the fire and certain death. The moral is simple. Don't allow the negative nature of some or all of those around you to change the positive nature that God has given to you to share. No. Now he says there's nothing wrong with being smart. For example, use a stick. But don't stop helping and saving and supporting and encouraging and strengthening those around you, regardless of their actions or reactions. Focus more on who you are and who you represent than what others may say or think about you. That's good. I think the irony of this story that Jesus tells, and perhaps the point that he's trying to get across to us, is we are not always able to judge what constitutes good soil. We may think the grass is greener and the soil is richer other places. But it all could be a show, a sham. For what may draw the biggest crowds sometimes is in reality pretty shallow ground. We may think that the soil around us is all hard and rocky, but who knows what's under the surface? Only God knows. Hidden there just might be the nutrients needed for a flourishing garden. Jesus said, "Go into all the world, scattering the seeds of the kingdom." He has said specifically to me, go to South Main Street in Anderson and scatter the seeds. Amen. Has he said that to you? Are you with me in this work? Are you? I need to know. Are you with me even when it feels like the seeds aren't always taking root? Let's pray. For the wisdom of the ages, which a carpenter from Nazareth, without a college education or a seminary degree, shared with us some 2,000 plus years ago. We thank you, Lord. For in Jesus, we find the fullness of your very life and character. And in his words, we find hope. May we scatter the good news of your love for all the world, wherever we go, no matter what the ground around us looks like. In Jesus' name.